Not over. CBS News election headline of the hour. If you're just getting up, you couldn't have dreamed anything to equal what has actually happened. Bush was declared the winner in Florida and thus the winner of the presidency. Gore called him to concede. Fast forward a few minutes. Bush's Florida lead began to evaporate. So does Bush's victory in the Electoral College, the assurance of it. And so does Gore's concession. He calls the governor back, says, I'm pulling back my congratulatory call to you, and that's where we stand. That's why Bush is back below the 270 electoral votes needed to win at this hour. This is how the electoral vote stands right now. 249, we believe, confirmed for Gore. 246, that's without Florida, confirmed for Bush. Bush, at last look, had a lead of about 200 votes in Florida. The person who takes Florida, the man who takes Florida, gets it all. Now, in Florida, 6 million votes roughly cast. Bush's lead down to about 200, just over 200. Now, in the popular vote, Gore now has a lead over Bush. You may recall that in the last days of the campaign, there were some Republicans publicly quoted as saying, listen, if Bush wins the national overall vote and doesn't win the Electoral College, we'll take it to the Supreme Court, which has a Republican majority, of course. Well, I don't know where they are now, but they might want to rethink it because the Gore people haven't said so, but they might very well say, well, we want to take it to the Supreme Court. Don't think they will. The Electoral College is going to decide. It doesn't get any stranger. Halloween has come a little late. What Bob Schieffer says, oh, yes, it does.
Oh, yes, it does.
Something late coming in here?
Wait till you hear this. We are now pulling back the Senate race call in Michigan State. That was the one where Washington State, what did I say? Where we said that the woman, Maria Cantwell, had beaten the incumbent Republican senator out there, Slade Gordon. We're now saying that we don't know who won.
Well, let's get this straight. The Republicans were virtually assured of having control of the Senate because the best the Democrats could hope for with what they thought was this victory in Washington State now, we're not so sure of, would have been 50-50. Now, the incumbent Republican senator is not necessarily beaten in Washington. We're moving that to a we don't know call rather than a definitely the Democrat has won. Folks are saying, well, what about all this exit polling and the calls? Look, in the last 40-some-odd years, I believe this is true, that CBS News has, through its election unit, has called many, many thousands of races. I can't remember the number, but at a minimum, we've called probably 8,000 or 9,000 races overall. Statistically, our average is, our batting average, our accuracy is the highest in the business by far. Statistically, very, very low. But here is an election night in which things have been so breathtakingly close that, yes, we have been, we've wobbled some in Florida. First called it for Gore, pulled it back. Then called it for Bush, had to pull it back. Embarrassing situation? You bet. But we're dealing as straight up with you as we know how. And in this Washington Senate race, we believed, as did almost everybody else, I think, I don't know anybody else hung out there with it, that there was enough evidence that the Democrats had unseated a Republican in Washington State, but turns out now the whole thing is narrowed down when you get the actual votes counted. So in the Washington Senate race, not in the presidential race, we believe Al Gore has taken Washington's 11 electoral votes. The state's open now in the presidential race. Let's get back to that. Florida, 25 electoral votes, undecided. Bush, at last look, had a lead of something just over 200 votes, about 1/30th of 1% lead for Bush in Florida. Wisconsin, 11 electoral votes. At last look, Gore led slightly in Wisconsin. In Oregon, with 7 electoral college votes, at last look, Bush led somewhat in Oregon, with Ralph Nader a factor in both of those states, as he was in Iowa. In disputed election between Hayes and Tilden in 1876, by the way, no winner was declared for 16 weeks. I'm not suggesting that will happen here, but it gives you some idea of how things went back in the 1800s. Electors in 3 states were in dispute, including Florida. That was back in 1876. Ed Bradley.
You know, these things can take a long time. We've been looking at all of the states to see what the history is when it comes to recounts. So far, we've found that in one state, Nevada, and I'm sure there are others out there, we just have to have some time to get to them. In Nevada, there have been 5 recounts in statewide races, none of which overturned the initial result. The last one was in a 1998 Senate race, and get a load of this, it took 5 weeks to resolve it. So I don't think that this this may not be over by tomorrow.
No,
or later tonight.
The outlook on things are, this is where this stands on the recount situation in Florida. The Gore campaign has said, we think it's our responsibility to ask for a recount down there, and we're going to ask for one. There's some question about it, but there's a belief that under Florida law, that any race is decided by less than 0.5% has to have a recount, having said that Bush's lead is now about 1/30th of 1% out of 6 million votes cast. There's supposed to be a meeting at 9 o'clock, that'd be about 4 hours from now, Eastern time in Florida, in which the Secretary of State, the governor, and the officials there will decide whether to go through a so-called, quote, full recount. Doesn't necessarily mean every vote is going to be recounted, but in somewhat skeptical circumstances in any precinct, there'd be a recount. If they decide at that, what we believe would be 9 o'clock meeting Eastern time this morning, then a recount could certainly take as many as 12 hours. And under that scenario, we might not know until 9 o'clock tomorrow night who's going to be the next president, Ed Bradley.
But if the margin is then, as it is now, just a few hundred votes, you still have those overseas absentee ballots up to as many as 30,000 were requested that would have to be counted. And if the information we have is correct, that these ballots you have 10 days to get these ballots in. They just had to be postmarked yesterday. You could be counting these votes in Florida for the next 10 days.
Yes.
So that would mean we would not know who the president of the United States is for the next 10 days.
That's a possibility. Have to put that in the, yes, possibility category, not a probability, at least not yet. Bob Schieffer.
Oh, well, that's very much the situation out there in Washington State in the Senate race. They've now decided that it's going to depend on the absentee ballots, and they haven't gotten those counted. So that's why we don't know who won that Senate race. Just to recap on that Senate, Dan, while we're on that. Republicans have now captured 50 seats in the Senate. Democrats have captured 58. We still have 48. We still have 2 to be decided.
Leslie Stahl.
The country is split right down the middle. We're seeing it in this race in state after state. So many were razor thin, not like Florida, but so many were so close. This country is just divided. I saw it in the House races. It's just amazing. And I want to point one more thing out to you. You know, we'd shown you that the New York Post had gone with this sort of blaring headline that Bush had won. But
and they may yet be right.
They may be right. But the New York Times, the gray lady, was so cautious. And they say that Bush and Gore, an extremely tight race, close race, they got it right.
Well, they got it right for right now.
For right now.
Keep coming back to this fact, and it's this is important. Bush has had a lead in Florida, and while his lead is now down to just over 200 votes in Florida out of 6 million cast, he still has a lead. And if Bush wins Florida, after all is said and done, recount, recertification, all of that, then Bush will be the next president of the United States. But right now, Bush trails in the overall national vote. It's 48% to 48%, but Gore leads by, last count, it was something along the order of 70,000 votes. Now it's down a little bit from that, but Gore has a clear lead in the national popular vote at this moment. This, for all anybody knows, could change once again. I want to put this in perspective because we're aware that a lot of people are just getting up or maybe came in and thought that Bush had won, or perhaps early in the evening some of them may have thought that Gore had won. The call was made on the basis of exit polling, the best available information, that George Bush would be the next president of the United States. They started a big party down in Austin. But then the Bush's, what seemed to be insurmountable lead, began to evaporate in Florida, got down so low that Gore withdrew his congratulatory message to Bush, decided to take it to the House, try to get a recount in Florida. That's where we stand at the moment. 249 for Gore, 246 with Bush. It all depends on how Florida goes. It almost certainly is going to take considerable more hours to know how Florida goes, and depending on the absentee ballots coming in from overseas, it could take days. No one is prepared to talk about weeks, which would be an outside possibility, but frankly doesn't look like a probability. Now, Bob Schieffer pointed out that in the state of Washington, a call's been pulled back on that Senate race, which we believed had gone to the Democrat. Again, that may not be decided until all the absentee ballots are counted, and while Washington State is not believed to have nearly as many overseas absentee ballots as Florida, because Florida has so many more military people who live in the state. There would be quite a few.
But listen to this. They count any ballot that is postmarked November 7th, so it may take a week or 10 days before they get the votes counted out there.
That's in the Senate race.
In the Senate
In the presidential race, we put Washington's 11 electoral votes in the Gore column. Our CBS News coverage will continue. Gore 249, Bush 246, 270 needed to win. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
This isn't one of those coffees you sit and sip as the world passes you by. Introducing new Folgers Cafe Latte. Delicious coffeehouse-style taste sensations. They're richer, coffeeier, and frothier than the other guy. So it's not the coffee you drink to take a break from your day. It's the coffee you drink to break into it. New Folgers Cafe Latte.
For sinus sufferers, it can start with a twinge or perhaps a slight pressure. For everyone, there's a signal. Your sinuses are gonna be trouble. Don't let it happen. Take Sudafed at the first sign. Untreated sinus pressure can escalate to pain. But now, taking Sudafed at the first sign releases pressure, so symptoms don't get worse.
The first sign of pressure, that's my signal.
Stop sinus pain before it starts. Take non-drowsy Sudafed at the first sign.
Great place. I like your neighborhood.
Thanks.
Oh,
Sorry.
Time to buy a Galant. 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for an entire year on our best-selling Mitsubishis. Hurry, this deal ends soon.
did you want to be alone?
No.
No?
Not at all.
Okay.
The irony is I started doing this to be part of the crowd. And
Yeah,
now...
me too.
Oh, do you?
No, I just quit. Nicoderm CQ.
Aren't the cravings unbearable?
Well, I'm not jumping, if that's what you're thinking. No. CQ is good on the cravings. It's strong medicine. It's with you 24 hours. It works.
Nicoderm CQ. Quit now for the Great American Smokeout, November 16th.
Quit, huh?
Hey, join the crowd.
Someone thought they had committed the perfect crime.
We do this right, it'll open like a jar of pickles.
All that was left was a skeleton.
I heard his bones. What a rush.
But after all these years,
I need you to make me a face.
CSI is going to give the victim justice.
Who are you?
An all-new CSI, CBS Friday.
Unprecedented, history-making presidential race. It still hangs in the balance. We don't know who the next president's going to be. We believe that Al Gore has a firm 249 electoral votes, and that George Bush, without Florida now, who knows how Florida is going to go, has 246. It takes 270 to win. Florida has been moved for the second time tonight back into the we don't know category. Early it was called for Gore, pull back, then called for Bush, now pull back. Nobody knows how it's going to go. Recount highly probable. Now, for those of you who may have gone to bed and thought Florida had been called for Bush and therefore Bush had won the presidency, we want to bring you up to date. Gore called Bush, then he retracted his congratulatory telephone call, and then Bill Daley, who's chairman of the Gore campaign, came out to make this statement about an hour ago.
I have some news to share with all of you tonight. Now, let me say, I've been in politics a very long time, but I don't think there's ever been a night like this one. Just an hour or so ago, the TV networks called this race for Governor Bush. It now appears that their call was premature. Let me be very clear about this. According to the information supplied by the Secretary of State of Florida, with 99.9% of the vote counted, there is a margin of only about 1,200 votes out of millions cast, with over 5,000 votes left to be counted. this is a very significant, for most important reason, and that is, for under Florida state law, this triggers an automatic recount, and as everyone knows in America, this race has come down to the state of Florida. Without being certain of the results in Florida, we simply cannot be certain of the results of this national election. Let me add that Vice President Gore and Senator Lieberman are fully prepared to concede and to support Governor Bush if and when he is officially elected president. But this race is simply too close to call. And until the recount is concluded and the results in Florida become official, our campaign continues. So let me, yes, so let me thank all of you. Let me thank all of you on behalf of Vice President Al Gore and Senator Joe Lieberman for waiting out here so late tonight, and we hope to have you back very soon. Thank you very much. Good night.
Now, about an hour ago, that's what Gore's man Daley said. He mentioned that he thought the difference was Bush was leading by about 1,200 votes. The Bush lead at last report was down to just over 200 votes. Shortly after Bill Daley came out, down in Austin, Don Evans, the Bush campaign chairman, came out and made this statement.
Governor Bush and Secretary Cheney asked me to thank you for all your terrific support and hard work. We hope and believe we have elected the next President of the United States. The latest vote count in the state of Florida shows Governor Bush winning that state by more than 1,200 votes. They're still counting, and I'm confident when it's all said and done, we will prevail. Thank you again for all your hard work and all of your efforts, and we look forward to a great celebration. God bless.
Now, after he made that statement, Bush's lead in Florida dropped on down to just over 200 votes, with still some votes to be counted. How many, we don't know. As of now, Gore trails by about 900 votes in Florida. This is new information just in. Gore trails by about 900 votes in Florida. That still would be something on the order of 1/3 of 1% of the total vote of 6 million votes cast in Florida. Bush still leads in Florida, but it's close enough where there's very likely going to be a recount, and that will take hours, if not days, to finally get that squared away. Byron Pitts is on the phone about the Florida vote. Byron, what have you found out?
Well, Dan, two bits of new information. A short time ago, the Florida State Attorney General Bob Butterworth announced that there will be a recount in Florida later today. He said it was his hope that the election workers may be allowed to go home, get a few hours sleep. He said, quote, that no one here is quite sharp right now. They'll be allowed to go home and rest, and then they'll return, and the recount will begin. Secondly, we're hearing from the Gore campaign that they're getting complaints, they allege, from some of their supporters in places like Duval County in North Florida and Dade County in South Florida, that there were some discrepancies with the ballot, that many of their supporters say that when they went to vote, the way the ballot was configured, that they unintentionally voted for Pat Buchanan when they meant to vote for Al Gore. That's one of the issues that the Gore people are raising as to why there should be a recount. That there may be something wrong with the numbers in Duval County and Dade County. But again, Bob Butterworth, the Attorney General, said the recount will occur at some point later today in Florida once the workers get a few hours sleep. Dan?
Byron Pitts in Florida. That gives us a headline for this hour. Attorney General in Florida says there will be a recount, which means we won't know who the next president of the United States is going to be for quite a while yet. 249 for Gore, 246 for Bush, with 270 needed to win. In the national overall count, Gore has a slight lead over Bush now in the popular vote. Dan Rather, CBS News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Open your eyes to a world unlike anything you've seen before. From director Ron Howard, Dr. Seuss's classic tale comes to life. Jim Carrey is the Grinch. Rated PG. At theaters Friday, November 17th.
To get the most tender, juicy turkey,
How come you never look at me like this?
all it takes is a little patience
Okay, I think it's time.
and a butterball.
Some turkey! Here we go.
The best of all is butterball.
21, 22, 23, 24.
364. 365. 24.
365.
24.
7. 365.
Chevrolet, supporting U.S. Olympians 24/7, 365.
I've taken care of this garden from the very first seedling. We need each other. But when I got arthritis, I thought my gardening days were over. Then my doctor encouraged me to keep at it, because staying active helps keep joints from getting stiff. And to make it easier, he recommends Advil. It's the #1 recommended medicine of its kind for arthritis pain, and it's gentle on my stomach. My doctor's right. Advil and gardening work beautifully.
Advil, stronger than pain.
My brother's son said he had an idea that'd make us rich.
That funny-looking kid said that.
Said we can use the internet.
The internet. We ain't selling books, we're selling feed, and we already sell to every ranch in the county.
Harlan, you ever been outside the county? Well?
Give me a minute, I'm thinking.
Can Jim's beloved station wagon
Pretty cherry, huh?
survive the Big Apple?
The car is.
It's a hellish eyesore.
I was gonna say hard to parallel park.
All new Welcome to New York tonight.
A wrongful conviction made him a fugitive. His search for the real killer made him a hunter. Friday, Dr. Richard Kimball
Put the gun down.
will become a hostage.
Go! This never should have happened.
Problem is, it did.
You won't believe what happens next. The Fugitive, all new CBS Friday.
Headline of the hour. Florida Attorney General says there will be a recount in Florida. Bush clinging to a lead of some 200-plus votes in Florida, we believe, possibly a few more than that. We're facing the real possibility, it's not yet a certainty, but the real possibility that the man who wins the overall popular vote could lose the Electoral College vote. Right now, in the nationwide overall popular vote, looking over here trying to get it up on your screen, Al Gore leads by 263,000 votes nationwide. Not all the votes have been counted. If this trend, it set in about an hour and a half ago, continues, Gore would win the popular vote. But in the electoral vote, with 270 needed to win, and the electoral vote is decisive, Gore, on a state-by-state basis, we think has a confirmed 249. Bush has a confirmed 246, with 270 needed to win. It all gets down to Florida, and in Florida, Bush has a paper-thin lead in the fight for the 25 electoral votes. There will be a recount, says the state attorney general, and there are absentee ballots to come in, and as close as it is, they may have to wait for those absentee ballots before anybody can be certified as a winner in Florida. Wisconsin and Oregon, Wisconsin with 11, Oregon with 7 electoral votes, they remain undecided, but right now, Florida, and this will remain. The man who wins Florida, make no mistake about it, will be the next president of the United States, even if it turns out to be George Bush, and even if George Bush does not win the overall national popular vote. Hillary Clinton has won a New York Senate seat. Chuck Robb, a veteran Democratic senator in Virginia, has lost his. 249 to 246, Gore leads in the Electoral College vote with 270 needed to win. Dan Rather, we'll be back. A lot of possibilities are opening up here, none of them leading to any fast knowledge of who's going to be the next president of the United States. In this unprecedented situation, the Florida Attorney General, has been reported by CBS's Byron Pitts, has said there will be a recount in Florida. That's bound to take hours, could take up to 12 or 13 hours, and that's a recount of the votes already counted. There are absentee ballots coming in from overseas that won't be in for days. Some of them may not be in for weeks. Now, since the issue of recount has been opened, and since Bush is now, although he leads in Florida, in some peril of perhaps losing Florida, who is to say that Bush won't ask for recounts in some other close states? Ed Bradley can fill us in on that.
Well, Dan, it's possible that other recounts can be asked for in both Iowa and Wisconsin. Gore has been declared the winner in Iowa now, and he's leading by a bit in Wisconsin. If Bush loses Florida, he could ask for a recount in Iowa and in Wisconsin because the winning margin for Al Gore there is so low. But he would need to ask. But you can bet your bottom dollar, if he does lose Florida, he's certain to ask for recounts in those two states.
True enough. Our focus continues to be on Florida, and I keep saying to myself, so I'm going to say to you, we recognize that some people are just now getting up, and many of you may have gone to bed last night believing that George Bush had been elected President of the United States, and you had reason to believe that, because everybody that we know of in the exit poll business had taken a look at the sample, made their judgments, had the data put into computers, and had moved Florida and its 25 electoral votes into the Bush column. But the actual votes counted began to narrow down. Bush's lead evaporated to a very large extent, and so CBS, as well as some others, have now pulled Florida back into the we don't know category. Not our best night, not our best situation, but we do the best we can, and in an election this unprecedentedly close, I suppose it was bound to happen. Now, in the Electoral College, and that's what's decisive, the Electoral College, Bob Schieffer, we have only a few seconds here, but all electors in all states are not bound to vote for the person that they've told people to vote for.
I double-checked this just to make sure, but in 26 of the states, the electors are not bound by law, only by history and tradition. That's not to say they would vote the other way than the way they were instructed to vote, but they don't have to.
Well, that
just
raises,
thoroughly confused everything.
Well, it's thoroughly confusing, but it's important information to know in a race this close. What is hoped, of course, is that eventually there'll be a firm vote in Florida. The man who wins Florida will be declared the winner because he'll have the most electoral votes, and that will be that. But all kinds of possibilities are now opened up, and some of them not too good. Recount in Florida, going to take hours, maybe recounts in other states such as Iowa, which we believe has been carried by Gore, but by a small margin, and in Wisconsin where it's still out there. And this whole business of the Electoral College, we could have a situation where Gore, who's now leading in the overall national vote, loses in the Electoral College, according to the votes as they stack up, and then maybe some electors will say, well, if he wins the national vote, I feel duty bound to vote for him in the Electoral College. All of those things possible. Very confused situation, unprecedented in our national history. The best we can say to you is that Gore leads in the overall national vote. He leads in the Electoral College vote, at least for the moment. We'll be right back.
That's Life, Saturdays on CBS. It's all here. Storm Target 5, Middle Tennessee's best weather tracking system.
It's giving us the information very quickly and very accurately about storms that are developing very quickly to tell which one is going to be the dangerous storm, where it's going, and when it's going to hit. A lot of times there'll be storms all over the radar. The question is, which one is the most dangerous? And that's what Storm Target 5 is all about.
Storm Target 5, only on News Channel 5. The news that matters doesn't always happen in the heart of Nashville. It happens all over Middle Tennessee. News Channel 5 at 5 covers the counties to deliver the news that's important to you. From the city line to the state line, the stories you want, the information you need. Because the local news doesn't stop at the city limit. Covering the counties every weekday on News Channel 5 at 5 with Amy Marsalis and Steve Urban, your news and information leader.
CBS News election night headlines at this hour. No, it is not over. It doesn't look like it's going to be over anytime soon. Recount coming in Florida. If you went to bed thinking George Bush had been elected president when Florida apparently fell into his column, not so fast. Bush's Florida lead over Gore dwindled down to a few hundred out of 6 million votes cast. At our last count, Bush led in Florida by something like just over 700 votes. 791 votes. That's still about 1/3 of 1% out of 6 million votes cast. And while Bush still leads there, Florida's back up in the air, and so is the presidency. There apparently will be a recount of the Florida vote starting later today. This brought Bush down below the 270 electoral votes needed to win, and get a load of this. As results continue to come in from around the country, California especially, Gore now leads Bush in the national popular vote by something more than, 277,000 votes or thereabouts. Gore, in recent hours, has passed Bush in the overall popular vote. But have to keep emphasizing the electoral college vote is where it will be decided. Bush now has, Gore has 249. Bush has 246 out of 270 needed to win. The man who finally gets Florida, and it's certainly going to be hours before we know who wins it, and it may be longer than that, he who wins Florida wins the whole thing. Now, Gloria Borgia, you've been talking to a very high official in the Gore campaign who doesn't want to be identified. What does this masked man have to say?
Well, this advisor says, first of all, Dan, that this recount is probably going to take at least a few days, is the way he put it, so I think we're going to have to wait for a final result. The Gore campaign is now also talking about what they call irregularities, possibly, in Florida, the kinds of things that Byron Pitts was talking about a few moments ago. He said there were weird things going on in Florida. He talked about the possibility that 3,000 machines had Gore and Bush's names transposed on a ballot, so the people who wanted to, Gore and Buchanan, so people who wanted to vote for Gore ended up voting for Pat Buchanan instead. What he said is, look, we want to look at every ballot. We want to get an accurate count. We presume that Governor Bush wants to do exactly the same thing, and we're just going to have to take all the time that it takes so we can get that accurate result. Dan?
Well, that might be a premature presumption. We'll have to hear what Governor Bush and his people have to say about that. Make no mistake, folks. Bush still leads in Florida. His lead is roughly 700 plus votes out of 6 million cast. And it's our understanding that with 100 precincts reporting, not all of the votes, including all the absentee ballots from this country, have yet been counted. And then there's the question of absentee ballots coming in from overseas. Any absentee ballot shipped overseas and postmarked today will be counted in Florida. Recount coming in Florida. We aren't going to know for sure who the next president of the United States is for at least some hours. Bush clings to a very narrow margin in Florida, and that's the whole game for the moment. In the national overall vote, Gore has pulled out to a lead, principally but not entirely on the strength of winning California and votes coming in there. Gore leads in the national popular vote. We are facing the possibility, it is not yet a probability, but certainly a possibility, that one man could win the national vote, Gore leads in that now, and another man could win in the electoral college vote, which is supposed to be decisive. Gore also leads in the electoral college vote at the moment, but Florida is the swing. 249 to 246 with 270 electoral votes needed to win, but 25 big votes are hanging out there in the balance in Florida, and Bush holds a lead of something between 700 and 800 votes in Florida. A recount is coming there. John Roberts in Nashville has been doing some good reporting throughout the evening and now has a blow-by-blow account of what actually happened in the wee small hours of this morning. John, recap it for us. Unprecedented in American history.
Absolutely, Dan. And here's a little tick-tock of what happened. As it looked as though Governor Bush had, in fact, won the 270 electoral votes it took to become president with about a 50,000 vote margin in Florida. Between about 1:30 and 1:45 this morning, Vice President Gore called the Texas governor and said, congratulations on winning the election. I'm headed now to War Memorial Plaza in Nashville, where I'm going to give my concession speech and make it all official. Well, it turns out that when the motorcade got about halfway here, Michael Hooley, who is his field director, who is the guy who's been drumming up all of these votes in the massive ground war that the Democrats launched, paged Michael Feldman, one of Gore's top aides, and said, well, wait a minute, it's not a 50,000 vote margin, it's more like 6,000 votes. And by the time that they got to the War Memorial Plaza, that margin had shrunk to 1,000 votes. So they all huddled backstage. Chairman Daley picked up the phone and he called the Bush campaign and said, we're not going to concede just yet. We're having a meeting. We want to discuss the results in Florida. And at about 2:45, Vice President Gore called the Texas governor. It was a quick phone call, we were told. We were not told what the text and the subject matter of the call was, but safe to assume the vice president said, I'm not going to concede the election just yet, and that's where we go from there. You know, Dan, all throughout this election, images of the past have been raised. You know, would this be like 1960, where JFK won by 1 vote per precinct? Gore himself raised the specter of the Dewey defeats Truman scenario of 1948 last Friday in Kansas City, when he said Dewey was ahead going into the final weekend, don't count me out. And of course, all of this talk about the electoral split, and we get all three in one night. It makes you wonder whether it's astute prognostication or something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And just adding a little more of a bizarre note to things as well, these voters who apparently got these ballots that Gloria was talking about, which may have transposed the names of Al Gore and Pat Buchanan, apparently, if they got those ballots, are thinking about having some sort of a rally tomorrow to ask the Attorney General if they can recast their votes.
Wild, to say the least. Wouldn't you love to have been a mosquito in that automobile where Al Gore's on his way to make his official concession statement, and they're on the phone saying, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. And that second phone call in which Vice President Gore, you said, John Roberts, was very short. I have to believe that when Governor Bush was told in the second phone call by Al Gore, Governor, I'm withdrawing my congratulatory words to you, that Governor Bush's eyes probably got as cold as your average pawnbroker's when he heard that. And why wouldn't they? But where it stands now, 249 for Bush, 249 for Gore, 246 for Bush, 270 electoral votes needed to win. In the national vote tally, 48% for each man, but Al Gore's lead in the national vote tally is on the order of about 300,000 votes, between 250 and 300,000 votes. Repeating for emphasis, it could turn out to be a situation where Gore wins the national popular vote and Bush wins the electoral college vote. We don't know it's going to turn out that way, but it could. Now, as of 5:35 a.m. Eastern Time, about 3 minutes ago, Bush was up by 980 votes in Florida out of 6 million cast, and so far as we can make out, not all of the votes had been counted in Florida yet, but Bush up by 980. He was down as low as about 270 at one point. We're talking about hundreds of votes. Bush leads in Florida by 980 votes out of about 6 million cast. Nationally, Gore's lead is 275,000 in the national overall vote. Is Bill Whitaker standing by for us at Bush headquarters in Austin, or not yet?
Yes, I am,
Bill.
Dan. Well, Dan, this has been a wild and wacky evening for the Bush folks here. First, Gore calls to concede, and then the Bush folks get ready for a victory party. Then Gore calls to retract, and the Bush victory party fizzles, and the folks who have been here for the party all go home. Now, this campaign says that it knows that there has to be a recount in Florida, but they are confident that when all is said and done and all the recounting is done, that Bush will win. Now, this campaign is regrouping. They're going to get together this morning and try to figure out what to do. And it's understandable that they don't know what to do, because nobody knows what to do, having never faced a situation like this. This campaign says that they were jubilant, and now they are a little dejected. They say that, as I say, they believe that they are going to win in the end, but all of this confusion has just taken some of the joy out of it. Dan?
Bill Whitaker, whatever is going on behind the scenes, one should note that so far the Bush people have handled this in a classy way, having been right there. The party started, the celebration started, believing they had won the presidency, then having Al Gore call and say, look, I have to withdraw my congratulations to you, and I'm not going to make my concession official because things are narrowing down so much in Florida. The Bush campaign, at least publicly, is handled in a very classy manner. And for that matter, when Bill Daley came out to make his statement on Gore's behalf, he underscored, saying, if Bush wins this election, if George Bush wins it, we're going to support his presidency and, you know, pull in behind him, but we have a responsibility, in effect, he said, to ask for a recount in Florida. They're now going to get the recount in Florida. That's where things stand. In the electoral count, it is Gore with 249, Bush with 246. It takes 270 to win. It all gets down to Florida, and it's 25 electoral count votes now. And in the national popular vote, Al Gore is up. He's pulled into the lead. While it's 48 to 48%, Al Gore in the popular vote has something on the order of a 750,000 vote lead at this moment. We're going to be right back here at CBS News Election Headquarters, and we'll be with you throughout the morning in this unprecedented history-making situation, so stay here with us.
Mounds and Almond Joy, because everybody needs a 5-minute vacation.
Okay, one more lap.
At Post, we put lots of energy into making grape nuts. What would you do with a little more energy?
Leave the car in the garage.
Try it and find out for yourself.
Maybe 2 laps.
What would you do?
They love us. Get the side contract in front of us.
As LA's hottest ad executive,
I'm a born salesman, closer.
being smooth was part of his game.
I was going to call you.
Yeah, I was going to hold my breath.
Until Abby
Hello.
became a part of his life.
She's not somebody you get tired of. I'm more worried she's going to get tired of me.
Academy Award winners Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow.
I want someone to say goodnight to. A last call of the day.
Bounce.
I don't have a last call of the day.
Rated PG-13. Everywhere Friday, November 17th.
Thanks for making a leave. I often had a hard time walking and even had surgery on both knees. Most pain relievers worked for a while, then quit. Finally, a doctor suggested a leave. Soon I could dance all night again.
Just 2 Aleve can stop pain all day. It would take 8 Tylenol to do that.
Now people say I'm a walking advertisement for Aleve.
All day strong, all day long.
And now cold sufferers can get the all-day strength of Aleve and new Aleve Cold and Sinus.
Some people are always thinking, obsessed with finding better answers and solutions. For them, there's Office.com, the internet workplace with the tools and resources business people need most.
Anything else?
Relish. I need relish.
Office.com, the new way to work. A service from WinStar.
What if you witnessed a murder and no one believed you?
Sure it wasn't a dream.
Except the killer. A deadly diagnosis.
Clear.
CBS Thursday. CBS Sunday.
OJ's in the white Bronco.
Based on the best-selling book by Lawrence Schiller.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
With screenplay by Pulitzer Prize winner Norman Mailer.
He is murder.
Comes the miniseries OJ doesn't want you to see.
Listen to me!
American Tragedy. CBS Sunday.
We still don't know who the president is, and are not likely to know for some hours because of confusion about the Florida vote. A recount has been ordered in Florida. It's mandated by law. Anytime the winning margin gets below 0.5%, by law they have to ask for a recount. And George Bush has a margin in Florida, but it's down to about 1/3 of 1%. He leads by a few hundred votes, possibly as many as 700 to 900 votes in Florida. Bush still leads, but it's so close that there is going to be a recount. Nationally, Al Gore leads by about 750,000 votes in the overall national popular vote total. The electoral vote is where the payoff is, and there Gore leads 249 to 246. But Florida, with those 25 electoral votes and Bush clinging to a several hundreds vote lead out of 6 million votes cast down there, still has hopes that in the end, and once the recount is done, that Bush is going to be the winner, but that is not yet assured. This much we can tell you. You and your children are going to lead through your lives for the next at least couple of years, a situation in which no other American has ever been through, and that is where you have the presidency, the Senate, the House, and state legislatures so close. The margins have never been so close between the two major parties in those four categories: White House, Senate, House, in Congress, and state legislatures. So we're moving into an unprecedented time. And Anthony Mason, voters, when asked coming out of the polls today, what do they think more important, the Electoral College vote or the popular vote?
Well, Dan, I think most voters would give the edge to the popular vote, and I think that leads me to a point I wanted to make here. And I think if, as increasingly looks likely here, we're going to have a split between the Electoral College and the popular vote, I'm very curious to see how America is going to react to this. I mean, Ed Bradley's been talking all night about how this vote shows that every vote counts. Well, if you end up voting for Al Gore and he wins the popular vote and loses the Electoral College, how are you going to feel? I know there's precedent for this, but it's been 120 years or more since we saw this happen. That most Americans have never experienced it. We all have the feeling that the majority wins. Are Americans really going to accept a decision like this? I think it's going to be very interesting to see the response, Dan.
Indeed it will be. Keep in mind, it's not yet assured that one man is going to win the popular vote and another man is going to win the Electoral College. That is a working possibility. Now, Bob Schieffer, the last election, President Clinton did not win a majority of the national vote. He won a plurality, and that's the reason he stayed president, but he didn't win a majority.
Nor did he win election the first time by a majority vote. He won with a plurality. So this is the third presidential election where neither candidate has been able to get more than 50% of the vote.
And we're assured of that happening, that whoever wins the national vote, whoever finally wins the Electoral College vote and is named president, will have a plurality, but not a majority, not over 50%, because Ralph Nader is running at least 2 or 3% nationally. Leslie?
But when this happens, in our great system, everybody accepts this plurality president as the president, accepts him, assumes he has a mandate as if he'd won a majority. We've had several like that. And the system goes on, and to answer Anthony's question, I think everybody will abide by the Electoral College because that's the way this country operates.
Well, we shall see. And keep in mind, we keep emphasizing that a recount has been mandated in Florida. The state attorney general says there will be a recount. But Ed Bradley, recounts then become possible in some other states where it's been so cliffhanger close.
Well, you do have the possibility of Iowa and Wisconsin, and we've been taking a look at other states to see what has been the pattern in the history of recounts. We mentioned Nevada, where there had been 5 recounts in statewide races. We've come up with 3 more states. In 1988, in the Rhode Island governor's race, Bruce Sunland against Governor Edward DePrete, Sunland demanded a recount and lost after 2 weeks. In 1989, in the Virginia governor's race, Marshall Coleman, the Republican, against Doug Wilder, the Democrat. Coleman initially lost. He demanded a recount. It took 43 days for that recount. Coleman lost. 1981, New Jersey governor's race, Tom Kean, a Republican, against Jim Florio, a Democrat. Florio lost, demanded a recount, and lost after 3 weeks. So 2 things that stand out here is that it seems that everyone who demands a recount has lost in these votes, but all of them take a long time, 2 weeks, 43 days, 3 weeks. So I think it's optimistic to say that this thing might be over by tomorrow night. This, by the way, was a headline in the St. Petersburg Times, looking at the online edition, recount in Florida. That's going to determine the election. And also there was there's a group called the Voter Integrity Project, which takes phone calls from voters around the country reporting problems with voting. For example, an inability to find a name on the voting rolls, voting machines that don't work. And this group, this Voter Integrity Project, which is a nonpartisan organization, got calls from Florida today earlier and said that this is a hot spot. They're going to write up their reports and submit them there to the Secretary of State.
And on it goes. In terms of what's in and counted, Gore, 249 electoral college votes. Bush assured, we think, of 246. It takes 270 to win. Wisconsin and Oregon are yet to be decided, but it all gets down to Florida. Bush is clinging to a lead of between 700 and 800 votes in Florida. There will be a recount. We're going to take a short break here and come right back. Keep the dial right where it is. Dan Rather in New York.
You know what? There were shows. They were fabulous. It was so much more than I expected. They were like Las Vegas. You know, like really professional shows.
We actually saw an act that we saw in Branson when we went down the river. So I thought, well, they're not kidding. They got real Vegas acts there. So it was tremendous.
And the headliner.
The second show was a 50s show.
Yes. Oh yes, and we love that, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Try to hide our age, but we love the 50s show.
We're sitting there. In fact, it was called Bebop, and we're sitting there bopping around in our chairs. It was wonderful.
Oh, and they had the audience waving their arms and the whole thing. It was.
Hello, America, how are you?
When I eat good, I feel good.
Healthy Choice helps you feel good.
We're both feeling good.
Because eating right makes a difference. And now there are 14 new meals to help you feel good, like Southwestern rice and beans, grilled chicken with fire-roasted tomato sauce, and sirloin tips in a mushroom and wine gravy. Delicious and nutritionally balanced. They help you feel good.
I feel great. I feel really good.
Oh. Healthy Choice. Feel good food.
Curel delivers more moisture than Eucerin and Lubriderm. Dermatologist recommended, Curel heals dry skin better. Women who try it agree. You can see the cure in Curel.
After midnight.
One tiny Claritin relieves seasonal allergy symptoms all day and all night. Claritin has a low occurrence of side effects, such as headache, drowsiness, fatigue, and dry mouth, similar to sugar pill.
Helping isn't always easy.
Look!
But now it is. Introducing new ready-to-bake cookies. A whole new kind of cookie from Pillsbury. Cookie-shaped dough, you simply place and bake without the mess. There's never been an easier, faster way to bake warm, gooey, chocolate chip cookies to share with the ones you love.
Here's the electoral vote. Gore, 249. Bush, 246. It takes 270 to win. This is the way the Electoral College map looks at this hour. Florida, which is where the presidency is going to be decided, it's been pulled back from the Bush column. Bush leads by between 700 and 800 votes at last count. Wisconsin and Oregon, Wisconsin with 11 and Oregon with 7 have yet to be decided. But the man who wins Florida will win it all. Now, Gloria Borgia, our CBS News consultant, has been on the phone and has talked to a high Bush campaign man who does not want to be identified. But what does he tell you, Gloria?
Well, some very interesting things, Dan. First of all, they are looking at the margins in Iowa and Wisconsin because they believe that perhaps if Al Gore is demanding a recount in Florida, then perhaps they should demand a recount in Iowa and perhaps even the state of Wisconsin. They also say that they are up between 791 votes to 1,784 votes in the state of Florida. They say the only votes that are outstanding are those overseas ballots. Now, those ballots have 10 days to arrive in this country, but they have to be postmarked as of yesterday. They say they feel very confident, Dan, because in 1996, 2,300 of those ballots were sent in, and 54% were for Dole, and don't forget, Dole lost the state of Florida. So they feel quite confident about the state of Florida right now, Dan.
Well, what the Bush campaign feels confident about is that in the end they will win in the Electoral College. It's increasingly possible that Gore is going to win the overall national vote.
That's right. That's right. And they're also saying, look, if you want to play hardball in Florida, well, you know, we might just review Iowa.
All right, Ed Bradley.
One other thing about the absentee ballots. There may be as many as 30,000 of them. Some of them may already be here and have been counted. We don't know that. We know that 30,000 are requested, and they have 10 days from yesterday to get them in, but some of them may have been sent in earlier, so they may have already been counted. We don't know how many are in.
Situation. Takes 270 electoral votes to win. Gore has 249, Bush has 246, but Bush is leading in Florida. with a lead somewhere between 750 and maybe as many as 1,700 votes. A recount will happen in Florida. Some, quote, irregularities, unquote, are suspected, not proven, but suspected. This is a wild and woolly, unprecedented situation in American history. It's obviously going to be hours, if not days, before we know for sure who the next president of the United States is going to be. This is continuing election coverage on CBS. Stay here with us. CBS News election headquarters in New York. For those of you who are just waking up and may have gone to bed last night thinking that George Bush had won the presidency, he may yet win the presidency, but he has not, despite what you may have heard last night, actually done so. The electoral vote count, 249 for Gore, 246 for Bush. It takes 270 to win. What's happened overnight is that Florida, but first was thought to have gone for Gore, then was pulled back, then was thought to have gone for Bush, then was pulled back. Gore made a congratulatory call to Bush, but then Bush's lead in Florida began to sink down very, very low. Gore decided against actually conceding. As for a recount under Florida law, it turns out because Bush's lead in Florida is about 1/3 of 1%, with 600 million votes approximately cast, there will be a recount. Leslie Stahl, is anything unique about what's going on this presidential level, or is it reflected all across the board tonight?
Well, as you yourself said a while ago, never in history has there been so many close races across the board. Just take a look at what's happened in the House of Representatives, which we believe the Republicans will maintain control of. But if you look at the overall vote for House, the Democrats ended up with 49% of the vote, the Republicans with 49% of the vote. In the Senate races, Democrats, 48% of the vote, 50% for the Republicans. If you look at the governor's races, the vote was 49% for the Democrats, 50% for the Republicans. Every single kind of voting around the country shows you that we're split right down the middle.
And in the Senate, the Republicans will maintain control of the Senate. Hillary Clinton won in New York. Rob lost in Virginia, so the Republicans are assured of control of the Senate, if nothing more, by having the tie-breaking vote of Dick Cheney if he becomes vice president.
If George Bush is elected president. There are now 48 seats that are held by the Democrats, 50 seats held by the Republicans, but we still have the race out there in Michigan that hasn't been called, and we still have one other race that hasn't been called. That's the one out in Washington State. We thought that Debbie Stabenow, not Debbie Stabenow, Maria Cantwell, the Democrat out there, had won. We pulled that call back. So it's 50-48 with 2 still to be decided.
In Florida, Bush's lead somewhere between 750 votes and perhaps as many as 1,700 votes. Virtually all the votes are believed now to have been counted, but when it says 100% of the precincts reporting, doesn't mean all of the votes, every vote, including absentee ballots, have yet been counted, but it's getting down very close to the point where that will be true. But a recount has been ordered in Florida, mandated by law, say some. The state attorney general says there is going to be a recount. That's bound to take some hours. Some absentee ballots may yet be coming in from overseas in Florida. The Bush people continue to say, we think we're going to win Florida, and the man who wins Florida now wins the presidency. The Bush people continue to say, we think we've won it, but there's going to be a recount, so we'll have to wait for that to come in. In the overall national popular vote, Al Gore is leading by something in the order of 750,000 votes, so we could have a situation where Gore wins the popular vote overall nationally, but Bush wins in the Electoral College. That's where it sits at this moment. Not likely to change for some hours now, although Wisconsin and Oregon have yet to be decided. Repeat for emphasis, it won't matter, at least not much for the moment, because he who wins Florida wins it all. Dan Rather at CBS News Election Headquarters. We'll be back.
City of Angels, Thursdays on CBS. It's all here.
This race is simply too close to call.
An amazing development in the race for president. When you went to bed last night, you probably thought we had a winner. We'll tell you why we don't.
I'm Rob Manning, live outside Lowe's Vanderbilt Hotel, where the vice president is now sleeping. I'll tell you what his immediate plans are coming up in a live report.
Plus a look at other local races here in Middle Tennessee. The news is right here, right now.
From the News Channel 5 network, this is News Channel 5 This Morning, your news and information leader.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Beth Tucker.
And I'm Steve Haislip. Thanks for being with us on this very wild morning.
It is an unbelievable morning here, everywhere and across the country here in
really
Tennessee
is.
as well.
I don't think since they closed Opryland Theme Park have we been on a roller coaster ride like this one all night long.
It could be a while before we know.
Yeah, let's get a check on the weather first off this morning before we get to the news. Hey, Leland.
Hi there, everyone. Some rain showers going on right now. Quick check of Storm Target 5 showing some of the rain shower activity around our area this morning. Some of you even seeing a little heavy rain cells pushing throughout parts of the metro area, down across Williamson County and down to our south along I-65. Let's give you a look at the bus stop weather. Cloudy and showers, 54 to 60 is where we're standing out there at this current time. And then right now by 9 a.m. we'll look for a temperature of 61. By noon, 65, and by 4 o'clock, 64. We will leave a rain and a thunderstorm chance in the area for today. Now, one more quick check of Storm Target here showing that we've got rain all over our region this morning, and we will keep that rain in the forecast throughout the area today. Here at the station right now, some light rain and a current temperature reading of 57.
All right, thanks a lot, Leland. Well, the question everyone is asking this morning, who wins? We have live reports on the presidential race from both Nashville and Austin. We're going to start now with Teresa Estacio. She is in George Bush's home state. Good morning, Teresa.
Thousands of Bush supporters stood in the rain outside the State House in Austin, riding an emotional roller coaster all night into the early morning. Last night, the networks declared Al Gore the winner in Florida. Then that was